Okay, everyone. So let's just do a quick going over of what we did in class today. So this is all about the a value, as in the letter A, in a quadratic function. So let's just start with the parent function, y equals x squared, or f of x equals x squared. I graphed that right here. This function is the OG function. It's the parent. Everything we talked about is based on this. So f of x equals 6x squared. In this case, we would say that a is 6 because a is the number that comes before the x squared, or it's the number before the parentheses if we're dealing with an example with parentheses. So if a is greater than 1, then what we have is a stretch. So you notice here from the parent function to the red one, which is 6x squared, it's stretched as if I raised my hands above my head and I stretched. It gets skinnier. So if you see a skinny parabola, we refer to that as stretched, and it means that a must be greater than 1. Now, if a is less than 1, but let's say between 1 and 0, then we have what's called compressed. And this one, the word is a little tricky. So I think of it like it's fat, and I think of what if I sat on a balloon? Then when I sat on the balloon, it would get fatter. Before it popped. So that's compressed. Okay. So the green one we would say is compressed, and it's because the a value is between 1 and 0, or less than 1. Okay. Now let's talk about what happens if we just put a negative in front of this. So when we have a negative a value, then what we get is what we call a reflection. Okay, we also call this concave down. So when we have a reflection, we can also have the other things. So now I just did negative 5x squared. The first thing I notice is that I'm reflected. So we're going to say reflected and concave down. And stretched, because it's stretched downward. It's a skinny downwards parabola. So this one would be stretch. And again, if the number is -1 or less, like -2, -3, -4, -5, etc., then we're going to have a stretch. It's just going to be concave down and reflected. Now, if we're between -1 and 0, like -1/4 or -0.25, then this is still considered compressed, because here, let me show you this one. So again, it's like I took the upside down parent function, the reflected parent function, and squished it. So if the parabola is fat, we're going to say compressed. Okay, that was the short version of today's lesson. I hope it was helpful.